welcome to The Link for this week. We always appreciate your support as our viewers, but also I meet many of you out there and you give very good feedback, meaning that we are trying our best to do our job, and our job is to give you information that you can use and opportunities, and we keep it to that. Whatever we think things in that area, your money, your business, how to make it work, etc., you're going to find it on The Link. And tonight we're discussing once again issues of taxation. For those who read the Bible, they call it Caesar. Caesar things, and they keep coming at us. Recently you have heard of the new EFRIS Gazette. That means a list of sectors that are being onboarded into the EFRIS. That is, I'm forgetting EFRIS, receipting and invoicing system. And whatever you give as a receipt to your client, the taxman sees, and therefore they track you and audit you along those lines. So new sectors have been added to that gazette. And tonight we are here to understand if you're one of those, how are you affected, what does it mean for you, etc. We're offering information that you can use along tax. And we have the right person in the studio tonight to discuss that issue. She has been here before as an educator for tax, and we are happy she's back. And she's Mrs. Juliet Najinda Mutabazi, Associate Director, Tax Services, PricewaterhouseCoopers, PwC. Juliet, welcome back.
Thank you, Sam.
Always a pleasure to have you here.
Always a pleasure to be back.
All right.
Yeah.
What is the EFRIS New Tax Gazette? Let me ask you like that, simply. And what informs the taxman's action to add people to this list of EFRIS? All
right. So maybe just to give a bit of a background on what informed this gazette. So when EFRIS came into force in 2021, the URA, or the Commissioner General then, designated certain taxpayers that were required to issue EFRIS invoices. And what that meant for those taxpayers is that once you are onboarded onto EFRIS, the taxman would get real-time updates of your transactions, and they will be able to track what you're doing. Okay. So that the list or the gazette that was issued then was specifying that all VAT registered persons were required to onboard EFRIS, or if you met the VAT registration threshold of 150 million. So even if you're not VAT registered, if the taxman suspected, they looked at records and saw that you had hit an annual turnover of 150 million, then you'd hear cases of people who have been forced to get on board with EFRIS, sometimes with penalties for non-compliance. So that went on up until June this year, which is last financial year, FY25. And in July, we saw a gazette which was taking effect on 1st July 2025, setting out a whole set of new sectors that are now required to issue to be EFRIS compliant, whether you are VAT registered or not, whether you meet the 150 million threshold or not. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And these sectors are mainly, there's like a whole list of about 12 sectors, but some of the key sectors we've seen are sectors around transportation and storage, people who are dealing in construction services, people who are dealing in real estate development services, mining services, people who are dealing in arts, entertainment, you know, the recreation kind of activities. Yes, Ebivulu, they are now, whether you make the 150 million or not, the taxman will be coming at you expecting that you've issued EFRIS invoices as you have been selling your tickets, and they expect you to, if you hit the 1,050,000, then they even expect VAT on that if you're not already VAT registered. So there's a whole list of about 12 sectors, and what this simply means is that for those people, you don't have to be VAT registered to issue EFRIS. You need to start complying with effect from July. Let's take it like this. Previously, people who were onboarded, the VAT registered people on EFRIS, usually had something embedded in their systems
to reflect the taxman. So I'm in entertainment, I'm issuing tickets. What would that mean? I need to install things? For example.
Okay, so the taxman has provided different avenues for you to issue the electronic invoices. And again, it comes back to, are you going to meet the VAT registration threshold? Because in that case, the taxman would expect that you issue these invoices with VAT. If they see that, you know, over the year you have had a number of concerts, and September you probably now at 250 million, they would expect that you you start charging VAT if you already had not charged VAT. So there are different modes that have been provided. Like the URA web portal has an option for you to raise those EFRIS invoices, and then there are these machines that different organizations have been designated to sell, the fiscal fiscal devices, and these cost about 120,000. They are like those POS machines where you can,
point of sale,
where you can easily issue an electronic invoice. And then there's also, if you have a system that's set up, the URA can connect EFRIS directly to your system. So there are all those. Of course, it comes with a cost of implementation, buying those machines, training the people to use them, because we know that when you issue, especially if you're VAT registered and you issue the invoice, or even if you're not, and you issue the invoice erroneously, getting that invoice credit noted, it requires you to go through approval processes with URA. So it means there's need for people to be trained so that they don't do try and error with a system to end up in a situation where they need to raise credit notes, so URA expects them to pay tax on invoices that were raised under try and error basis.
Okay. It seems to me also that URA is trying to come for informality, because I'm looking at a bivulu. That means I have to have a proper company, a physical address. Can I do EFRIS without those things?
Well, right now, the expectation is if you're earning that revenue as, out of a concert, out of all those things. Most of these individuals whom you'd expect, because they're earning revenue in Uganda, the expectation is that they should have tax identification numbers. So some of them may have set up companies, some of them may be operating as individuals. So what the taxman is saying now, even if you're an individual, and you're in those sectors that have been set out, entertainment, waste management, recreation, you're expected to raise EFRIS invoices. Whether you're not charging VAT or not, the expectation is for them to see you with that real-time reporting happening through EFRIS.
The question I'm hovering about is this informality. I'm an individual, I have a tax identification number. So how do I issue an EFRIS invoice? Through the portal or through the other party? The party, the party who's supposed to pay me is the one who makes me be caught, so to speak. How does that work? So
what happens is, let's assume you're going to use the web portal, even these machines, the FDNs, the fiscal document devices. You would have to, first of all, confirm who your customers are. It's easier for certain sectors. So for example, if you're in waste management, you'd know that my customer is Sam. Sometimes you may have his TIN, sometimes you may not. So EFRIS allows you to issue an invoice to either a customer who has a TIN or customers that do not have tax identification number. So you find if you're, for example, doing a concert, it's not realistic for you to say that all those people that had 2,000 people coming for the show, you expect them to give you TIN numbers. So under such circumstances, we have seen the taxman allow people to issue invoices without tax identification numbers, and that is still okay, because for them at the end of the day, they see that you're declaring the sales, even if the sales are to non
So to translate, I have a person who collects garbage at home. There's that company which comes to that locality. That means that for all the receipts they give us, the taxman also has a copy, even if we may not issue our TINs to them. So what that means is that they should be able to issue invoices to you, electronic invoice, electronic receipts if they're not VAT registered, or invoices if they are VAT registered, and the taxman sees real time
how much these people are earning, and that way they're even then able to track whether they've met the VAT registration threshold, so that they register for VAT. And also at the end of the day, when they're accounting for their income tax, the taxman will compare and see how many EFRIS invoices did you raise, how much should I expect, 10 million, how much are you declaring? So it will be easier for them to track down. Okay,
we're going for a short break, and I hope you have a pen and paper and following. We need to take this slowly so that they don't catch you, or rather you are compliant. We come back after the break and continue this EFRIS Gazette discussion. Welcome back, and we hope you have not missed the first part. We are discussing the new EFRIS electronic fiscal receipting and invoicing system of Uganda Gazette. Those people added afresh on that list, and Julie, our expert, told us that even if you are not VAT registered, as was the first instance, you are expected. Garbage collectors, whatever the receipt you receive from a garbage collector, it must be also EFRIS connected, so that the URA sees that you have paid money and therefore this person has earned income. And we have our expert in the studio, Mrs. Juliet Najinda Mutabazi, Associate Director Tax Services with PwC PricewaterhouseCoopers. So Julie, what are the envisaged challenges for those people who have been added to the Gazette? Because they have been giving me receipts and they are sending it on WhatsApp.
Yeah.
What's going to happen with such people, the garbage collectors, but among other people, other things? What are the challenges I'm likely to face if I'm added to the Gazette?
All right. So I think one of the key challenges is how quickly this has been rolled out. Because this Gazette has come to our attention somewhere in mid-July, but it has an effective date of 1st July.
Oh, retrospect.
So, yes, so people are expected to implement it retrospectively, which does not really make sense. And also then it speaks to how much people need to put in terms of training. The taxman needs to sensitize some of these people. They were previously not in the net for issuing EFRIS invoices, so people need to understand what does it take to issue the EFRIS invoices, the training that needs to be done. Like I mentioned, if you mess it up because you're trying out and you raise credit notes, you need to reach out to URA to have those credit notes cancelled. Otherwise, they will expect you to pay, to declare income tax on them when they were raised in error. So there's room, there's need for the taxman to probably step back and do a bit of more sensitization and allow people to get to understand what this new system is about. But then the other thing, I think the other challenge is around the cost. And when you look at what the cost means for especially the small players, because now they are going for people who are below the 150 million threshold for VAT purposes. So most of those are small businesses and startups. It's a question of whether they will be able to actually meet up with this cost of compliance. That means they need to buy the machines where possible, the fiscal device machines that we talked about. They need to have that data loaded for them to be able to raise the invoices. They need to have people who are trained, who are that level of computer literacy, for them to be able to work with a system to issue the invoices or to issue the credit notes, to liaise with URA. So it calls for a lot of business preparation, which cannot be done if the Gazette is already in application retrospectively. They should ideally be a transition time.
Okay.
Yeah.
The thing has come at me and I had not my systems organized. Can I go and cry to URA and say, Banangi, give me some breathing space? Does a taxman work like that?
So right now, unless maybe, because once a Gazette is issued, then it has to be it's a law in place.
Absolutely.
So unless maybe there's an outcry from the public for this to be stayed off until a number of people are sensitized and are ready to onboard. But as it is now, the Gazette clearly indicates that the law is the change is effective 1st July 2025. So there's little wiggle room currently, and unless something happens.
I know that you are in auditing. You guys are tax people, you experts. But I'm a small business. I've been handling things myself. Will I need, what do you know, Julie? Will I need to hire someone, maybe somebody who has done an accounting, what do they call them? Accounting, I've forgotten, not an accountant, but accounting, I've forgotten that other person with a diploma. Do I need to go there? Or there's a way around it and still be EFRIS compliant?
No, actually, when you get to know the system, it's not that complicated.
Okay.
You don't need to hire someone. But then we also need to be cognizant of the fact that for some of these sectors, people may not be literate. And that's why then there was, some of the feedback that has been coming through is that government should probably consider having a threshold, because when you look at them trying to ensure that everyone who's in those sectors issues EFRIS invoices, irrespective of how much they are making, for some businesses it may not make sense. So they could probably consider, if you look at the presumptive tax payer regime for income tax, they seek to tax everyone who's earning at least 10 million shillings in a year, and that is where the first tax sets in. So anyone who's earning below 10 million, you don't pay tax. And that's really, the spirit behind that law was to drive those businesses to grow, to gain footing, so that they can, before they can be burdened with all these tax compliance requirements. So probably something similar could be adopted, because the smaller businesses, the startups, people who don't have the capacity to run the infrastructure or even to acquire it, then stand a high risk of losing out, because the big businesses will not now want to work with anyone who doesn't have an EFRIS invoice, because it means on their end they'll not be able to gain a claim or a deduction for that expense if it cannot be supported by
Julie, say that again, the danger there. If I'm a big business, I can't deal with you.
Yeah.
If you're not EFRIS compliant.
If you're not EFRIS compliant, because it means that I'll have to forego that expense when I am computing the corporation tax, the income tax that I have to pay that year, and I have invoices from people who are not EFRIS compliant within the sectors that we talked about, then the taxman will not allow you to take a deduction for those expenses. So they would prefer to work with another person who's EFRIS compliant, so that they are not stopped from claiming their expense deduction.
On the presumptive tax of those who earn 10 million, does this new Gazette, might it overlap with that?
No, so that the Gazette is completely independent of the presumptive taxpayer regime. The presumptive taxpayer regime is for businesses that are earning below, for businesses that are earning below 150 million. The income tax law has different bands that they speculate where the amount of tax that a business is supposed to pay. So the starting point is that if your business annual turnover is below 10 million, then you don't pay tax. So
this thing will not come at you? Even if you're in those sectors?
So now, when you're in those sectors, for income tax purposes, yes, it will not come at you, but you're still required to have the EFRIS invoices so that the taxman can track that you're indeed below that 10 million.
That indeed I deserve to be considered a presumptive.
Yes.
Very interesting. Finally, in 1 minute, is this the start of the EFRIS wave going to other areas? Should people say, they're coming to us next?
Well, I believe so, because when you look at, say, in the recently rolled out National Development Plan for the NDP4, one of the key strategies that government is setting out is to widen the tax base through tapping into the informal sector and also leveraging technology to drive compliance. So EFRIS is one of those things, if you look at the statistics, that in as much as it's not been to the level that government expected, it's shown progress in terms of getting more people to be compliant. Things that we used to see previously, like invoice trading, where someone just raises fictitious invoices and claims input VAT, those are now going under. It's
traceable.
Yes, it's traceable. So because of that, we know that it's going to go beyond. The Gazette, for example, doesn't include people who are in wholesale and retail trade, people who are dealing in general merchandise. So the traders, say, who are in Chikubo, currently they are not affected by that Gazette because it does not set out general merchandise and wholesale trade. So, but once these other sectors are on board, because you find that people who are like in the restaurant business, they are affected. Construction and real estate are affected. So once the government is done with those sectors, we expect that now they will come for those that have not yet been got hold of.
Thank you very much, Juliet, for taking us through understanding the new EFRIS Gazette. If you're still safe, in quotes, it's going to come at you apparently. But if you are on the Gazette, that means the way you do business is going to change in order to comply with the taxman and be compliant. Compliance comes with some advantages also at some point once you are in it. We hope we added value to you tonight. We want to thank you very much for always watching us and following us on The Link. That was The Link tonight.